Hey everyone, thanks for joining me for this video about why magic and why spells sometimes just don't work, and basically a little guide to troubleshooting your own spellcraft. This is part of a two-part series, and one video is about why spells even work, and this one is going to be about why they don't work. I will link the other video below. I really recommend watching this before this video because in order to understand why spells do not work, you first have to understand what makes them work in the first place. There's also an index below, so you can jump to whatever part of this video seems interesting to you. So in this video, I will talk about why affirmations work or do not work, why spells work or do not work, and how you can help them work and make them intense enough to work for your own mind. Just as always, a disclaimer, this is just my perspective on spellcraft and magic and witchcraft. It's very related to a psychological approach. If you have a different opinion or if you think that energies are involved in it, I'm not saying that they are not, but this is just one part of why spellcraft works or doesn't work, in my opinion, which is the power of your mind and the activity of your mind. So let's just sum up again. What is spellcraft? Spellcraft is based on communicating with your unconscious by setting an intention and illustrating this intention with symbols that are meaningful to you or that have a very general meaning as an archetype, for example. If you don't know what an archetype or the collective unconscious is, which are both terms by the psychologist Carl Gustav Jung, then you can watch this video that I mentioned in the beginning about why spells do work. So the basis of why magic, ritual, and spells do not work for us sometimes is that what you are doing or saying simply isn't resonating with you. This is a very hollow statement to a lot of people. If you haven't quite understood the concept of resonating, then it's sort of like, I don't know what that means. What does resonating even feel like, you know? And that's why I'm trying to explain it in a little more depth now. Let's say your intention is to open up to prosperity or love or spiritual fulfillment. So let's look at the spell that I mentioned in my other video, where you fill a cauldron as a symbol of receptivity with water as a symbol of emotion, sprinkle some rose petals on there as a symbol of love, and then write down your fears about love or about prosperity or about success and burn them in order to release them. Now, fire is a symbol of cleansing traditionally, but if fire to you is a horror, a terrible, scary, destructive thing, then chances are you just don't connect with that universal symbolism of burning something down in order to rebuild. And then the spell will not work for you because one of the symbols in the spell doesn't mean anything to you, it's hollow, or because it means something completely different to you. And then your unconscious doesn't have a chance to understand it, because spells are about creating the symbols that speak to our unconscious, not to anyone else's, but our own. And that's why spellbooks always need to be tweaked, basically. If you buy a spellbook and there's a spell in there that you want to do, always check in with yourself. Do these symbols actually mean what the author says they should mean? So even with general archetypes or symbols, they still need to speak to you, and you have to find where your personal experience links with the general meaning of symbols. That sweet spot where your conscious and your unconscious communicate with each other, and where the meaning of symbols overlap. So as I said, a spell needs to correspond on all levels to your mind, not just on the conscious level where you read something in a book and you say, I see fire means cleansing or a cup means receptivity, but you also have to feel it. And this is why your own spells are going to look very unique. Maybe you want to include something like dolls or storm water. I really love using storm water because storms have a specific meaning for me. And of course, they also have a general meaning, but I very much vibe with that meaning. Maybe storms don't mean anything to you, and it's not a symbol that really gets into your experience, you know? Now, this is why affirmations do not work if you cannot internalize them. For example, if you have the affirmation, I am absolute beauty, or I am beautiful in every way, but you don't quite believe it yet, it's much better to start with something that you can actually get on board with. Say something like, I love my hair, or I love my eye color, or I love the way I speak, I love my voice. And going from that point onward is more effective than trying to incorporate a blanket statement into your spell and saying something that you know isn't quite true yet. And I'm not saying that these affirmations don't help. I think they do actually, because you're kind of working your way up towards it being true. But in order to effectively communicate with your unconscious, you have to give it something that it actually believes. Because if you're trying to consciously make yourself believe that you love yourself, or that you can do a certain thing, then it doesn't mean that your unconscious will suddenly be free of the fears it has or the obstacles that it puts in its own way. It's important to incorporate your unconscious into this whole process of spellcrafting and spell casting. Same with symbols. If a broom doesn't mean cleansing to you for some reason, and you'd rather use salt water that you spray around, or you'd rather use white sage smoke in order to cleanse a space, then forget about the broom. If it doesn't resonate with you and if it doesn't make sense for you, then don't incorporate it into your spiritual practice. And this is also, just to sum this up, why eclecticism is very important in my practice, and why chaos magic is much more appealing to me than following any one paradigm of magic or witchcraft. Because you basically pick and choose what resonates with you and what is most effectively impacting your own mind and your consciousness and unconscious. So following a religious paradigm or a spiritual paradigm just isn't my thing. And I think for my own effective spellcrafting, it's important that, of course, you know the basics. You know how to create a circle, or how to cast a protection spell or a love spell. But from this basis of knowledge, you always have to do your own thing. And it's the same with tarot cards. This pattern repeats itself everywhere. If you learn tarot cards, you can't just go by what the book says. You have to look at what resonates with you and what you read in the cards. Same with dream analysis. You can follow those steps that I give in my dream analysis video, but you still have to see what exactly works for you and what is most meaningful in your own dreams. So yeah, if you want to hear more about not just talking to your unconscious or trying to set an intention, I would also recommend my video about dream analysis, where I talk about listening to your unconscious and actually hearing what it has to say in its strange, surreal, symbolic way. So yes, I hope this video helped you understand and helped you troubleshoot your spellcraft, and that my little two-part video series makes more clear how spellcraft works and how spell casting itself also works. So I hope you have a ton of fun conceptualizing your next spell or your next ritual. And I wish you all the best. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.